IRA money. So that'll come into play also. But it's a really very complicated situation, and I did it on a spreadsheet. It was like 10 or 11 columns. But not everybody's is that complex. Most people have one or two kids, and some assets here and some assets there, and he has virtually no money in the bank. It's all qualified money that he has. So that money is out of the financial aid formulas. It's not being assessed, but the stock market is going to take a trip south, and he could lose tens and tens and tens of thousands if he doesn't save up his money at least.
Right.
Wow. I mean, he's happy that he made all this money. Well, that's great, but making it is one thing, keeping it is another. And you know what most people don't realize? It's really great to pay income tax, because the more income tax you pay, the more money you made. Mm-hmm. People don't realize that. Yeah. They don't want to pay any tax.
No one wants to pay any tax. It's no longer money of theirs.
Yeah, well, there's legal ways to reduce it.
Yeah.
Paying zero tax, you couldn't have had too much money to start with.
That is
if you did some income planning. But there are so many stories that I could tell you about. I've had clients on 3 continents, and I've put on seminars from Rhode Island to Florida to San Francisco. I've had clients in Alaska and New England and all over the country. And these webinars, I've gotten really. In fact, I'll send you the link. It's 38 minutes if you get a chance to watch it, and it's pre-recorded, which makes it that much easier for me. Unless I have to make some changes, then I'll make sure that the next version will also be pre-recorded, so I don't even have to worry about making a mistake when I'm doing it live. I tried about 5 or 6 times before I got it down pat, and then we pre-recorded it with this other company. But getting into college, that's really the tough part. Students have to apply to a number of schools. They've got to have 1 or 2 safe schools and some mid-range schools and some reach schools. But if somebody's got a 3.5 average and medium boards or ACT scores, they're wasting their time applying to an Ivy League school. It's a waste of money, unless maybe one of their parents happens to be an alum, and then they could be considered in a different situation as a legacy student. But another thing, people should really be aware of the risk in early decision.
Yes. Because
once you sign the early decision application and you get accepted to that school, you must, and I'll repeat it, you must notify every other college to have your application withdrawn, or you could lose your place in that school where it was early decision, because they'll find out. So you can't screw around with these things. You have to do it to the letter of the law. It's very important that everything is open and above board, and everything is copacetic and all the numbers match, or they'll take a look at you under an electron microscope. And that's why I stay out of the process. None of these colleges know that I exist, because if they did, all these families' situations be ultra scrutinized.
Oh, wow. Really?
Huh. But I enjoy it. My 1 year, I got 2 kids into Harvard 1 year. That was a real big treat. And another success of mine was at Princeton University a number of years ago. They denied that they ever, accepted and, appealed, were welcome to an appeal letter but I had a family. The brother and sister had tens of thousands of dollars in stocks and bonds and mutual funds, and he didn't. He was the older one. He didn't get any financial aid, so they paid the tuition for the first 2 years or 3 years, and then came to one of my seminars. And after I did asset repositioning with them, we appealed the award letter. They had made a payment for the first semester. Mind you, this is a long time ago. They had a balance of $15,000 for the second semester, and the appeal was $18,030. He had a credit for the senior year, thanks to my work.
Wow, that's awesome.
I know. Princeton denied it, but of course, I have copies of all the paperwork. But it's just, I just get a pleasure out of being able to help people. You know, I don't have all the answers, obviously, but I have all this experience. And when somebody tells me they want to do something one way, I say, well, you really need to consider this, blah, blah, blah. And here's the reason why. And they make the final decision, not me.
Right. Their path. They just come to you for the advice and you're just going. Now, what is one of advice that you would give someone who is now beginning this college process for themselves or for their kids?
What are you talking about? A family who's got a student that's going into the 12th grade?
Yes.
Okay. Well, they need to figure out what schools they're going to go to, and they need professional help. Not necessarily me, but at least somebody else, because if there's any asset repositioning that needs to be done, that money needs to be outside of the financial aid formulas, or they will pay thousands or tens of thousands of dollars more in financial aid. And virtually any person in my position will give them at least a free 10 or 15-minute consultation to determine if they can help them. And that's what I would recommend, that they seek professional help. And as far as applying to schools, the first thing, well, they should have already done this in the 11th grade. Most of these kids will apply using the common application, which several hundred schools use. And I have my 10th graders I give them an essay consultation, and they decide which essay they're going to, and the questions haven't changed in the past 2 years. Well, they made one change, not a big deal, on one of the questions. But I have kids do their essay work beforehand so that they don't get caught up in the admissions process and studying for finals, and they won't be able to write an essay with a straight mind. So I try to make sure that that's all done in advance. That's why I like to work with families. The best situation is someone who just graduated middle school and is going into the 9th grade. And I've had families like that. And those students, when I work with them, once they get into high school, the first thing they want to do is run for class president. And they're not going to hide behind some tall kid when the teacher or someone in the principal's office says, well, who would like to run for president of the freshman class? My kids are the first ones that are going to stand up. And they look like Shaquille O'Neal in the high school process. And working with teachers and chairmen of different departments. There's an old saying that I've used for decades. Plan your work, work your plan. Nobody plans to fail, but too many people fail to plan. And that holds true in all kinds of life situations. And if somebody plans their work right, they'll have everything all done, all according to Hoyle, and they'll be in really good shape. And the other thing is community service hours. And any one of my kids who I start working with in the 9th grade, or sometimes even in the 10th grade, by the time they graduate high school, I've shown them how to accumulate over 1,000 hours of community service. And the net result from that is that many colleges will award community service scholarships for thousands of dollars. It's not going to help anybody who's in the 11th grade with 100 hours. They're not going to be able to get 500 or 600 hours, before they fill out their applications when they're in the 12th grade. But working with kids in the 9th or 10th grade, it's very possible to accumulate thousands of hours of community service. And anything to do with handicapped families, or if someone's a neighbor's blind and you take in their newspaper, or you water their grass, or they do any number of different things, I have a form where they have the person from that group or association or temple or church or mosque or whatever it is sign it, so all the community service hours are certified. A lot of these kids have done things in middle school and don't realize that that's community service hours, and that can be used to show colleges what they were doing before they even got into high school. Blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So it all goes back to plan your work your plan, But knowing all this information gives them the opportunity to take this and that and do this and do that. And there's only one opportunity to get into college. And we have to make the most of it. And I also, I have a number of kids that obviously go on to graduate school. I help them with the applications. And they're now independent students, so they can borrow whatever the cost might be. But if they don't go off to graduate school, or even if they do, by the time they get out, or if they graduate college and go into the workforce, I negotiate job offers. And then I get 25% of the difference. And I've had a lot of success in that area also.
That's neat. Very before college and after one. So here's one for you. Now, a lot of individuals that I know that are going through this right now, some of them are wanting to go back to school, but they've been told that they're maxed out on financial aid. And
well, they could have borrowed $27,000 in the Stafford Loan Program, and they won't get any more aid. But if they're going back to school, they're independent students, and there's almost no limit to how much they can borrow. But that doesn't mean that they should think of borrowing. They should think of, well, gee, how much aid might I qualify for? And a brief conversation with me or someone else who can analyze it over the phone will tell them that, yes, I can help you, or no, I can't help you. But the truth of the matter is, and I always get a kick out of saying this, after of course, I always talk to somebody. Emails are great, but you have to actually talk to the person. And when I have a phone conversation or a video, whatever, I get all their basic, I find out their financial fingerprint and what have you. And this is usually the result. When I'm all done, I say, well, based on your situation, there are two choices. I can help you, or I can help you. And that's usually the truth. And what usually comes across on the other end of the phone is a laugh or a giggle or whatever. But, there you go. Yeah, just like that. Exactly. But it's the truth. Because I've done this so many times, I know that if the student has any money at all, if it's out of their name, they'll save 20% of whatever they had, because it won't be part of the financial aid assessments. And some of these kids, the parents have custodial accounts. Oh, that's something else I'll mention. A custodial account is an irrevocable gift to the minor. The money belongs to them. The only way the parents can use any of that money is for the minor's benefit, like camp or a trip or auto insurance or something like that. If the kid has $10,000, the parents can't just go into that account and take $5,000 out of that. They can be sued. That's illegal.
Huh. Look at that. So how do you go ahead and tell listeners how they can reach out to you to get this advice, to get this leadership